Why am I getting triggered in my relationship? Let me ask you something. Are you in a relationship and do you get triggered in that relationship? I'm talking about intimate relationships actually, but you can also apply this to, or this is applicable, I should say, also to like other relationships, like to a friendship or whatever, brother, sister, family, whatever it may be. My question to you is, do you get triggered in your relationships? Well, I certainly do. And, also what I want to make distinction of is like the following. When I say triggered, right, I don't mean like somebody says something small and, you're just basically being dramatic or like, I'm not talking about small little triggers. I'm actually talking about like severe triggers. Triggers where actually, you become like very emotional, like your body is like overwhelmed and it's just like too much, right? And you're just becoming very irrational and you're making no sense basically. This is like what I'm talking about. Are you having like these types of triggers? Well, not so long ago, I actually had one. And to tell you the honest truth, it was like the most unpleasant thing I had in a long time. So that's why I want to talk about it, right? Because nobody talks almost about those things, This should be like a main thing, in my opinion. Like knowing how to deal with triggers, with like emotional responses we're like not aware of and stuff. This is like so important. I wish, I was learning this at school, but unfortunately they don't teach these things at school. Anyways, I want to get into it. Little story of mine, how I actually, a couple of days ago, got like severely triggered. Goes as following. So, me and my girl are planning to go to this like big music festival, right? And, we are figuring out our logistics. Basically, like, which place are we going to sleep at? How, do we figure out our transport and stuff? Like the basic typical logistics stuff everybody does basically. And then, we come at a certain point where we basically have to choose our tickets because like for every festival you go to, not every, but I'm assuming to most of the festivals you're going to, you have like certain types of tickets you can buy, right? Maybe you buy like a 1 day ticket or a full pass, depending on what event it is and what you prefer. Anyways, basically we come to the point where we're like about to choose like our tickets and, I'm like, yo, I wouldn't mind to actually like buy a full pass, where I can have like where we could have, access to like all days and stuff and we can like enjoy everything out of the event, right? And, my girl's like, yo, but actually maybe I would like to skip the first day and the second day because I would actually like want to, meet up with some other friends at the event, right? And she also mentioned like the following. She mentioned like, we don't have to be 24/7 together or something along those lines. I'm not actually pretty sure but she mentioned basically like, yo, we don't have to be 24/7 together. That's what it came down to basically. And the moment I was actually reading this, I don't know, I just like felt like a rush of emotions, like rushing up my body. I was feeling like, it was just so overwhelming, lots of emotions, mixed feelings, didn't know what to make out of it. And I was like so triggered, to the point where I was actually like shaking and my heart beating faster basically, and it was like so unpleasant. Anyways, she was actually not very sure of it herself. And one thing, I want to pause actually the story for a bit and I want to note something. One thing I learned from my personal development journey is the following. When you're like very emotional, right? And just like experiencing those bursts of emotions and like those heavy states of emotions, basically never ever act upon those emotions. Like when you're like in this state of being, don't take action, right? Like take a pause, don't act, like think 3 times before you're going to say something, because probably 90%, 95, 99% usually the case is that it won't make sense what you're saying because you're having like lots of mixed up emotions, right? And you're just triggered basically, like something from your past, which I'm going to get into, it got triggered. And what I learned from my personal development journey is basically like never act upon those emotions. Just look at them. Eckhart Tolle always says like, you're the observer, not the emotions. Just observe them. Don't be the emotion. Look at the emotion. You're not the one who feels the emotions. You're the one who sees the emotions, right? And anyways, that's what I did. I was like pretty aware of the fact that I was like triggered. Because note, also, lots of other people don't even are aware of the fact that they're being triggered. It's one thing if you know you're triggered. Another thing, if you actually don't know you're triggered, and then you start acting up upon those emotions, right? And then you start saying stupid stuff, towards your close people, your family, your whatever, whoever it is, and then, that person also gets triggered. And then, it ends up in very nasty ways, I feel, and I'm pretty sure of actually. Anyways, I was like, okay, yeah, let me know if that's the case. And then, we see what we do. I didn't make like a big deal out of it, even though I was feeling like shit, basically. I was like in the worst feeling ever, right? I was like shaking. I had like difficulties going to sleep and stuff, right? But still, I was aware. I was looking at the emotion. I was not identifying with the emotion. And I was just like, okay, it is what it is. I'm not even sure, right? But still, like, I had like lots of thoughts, like, oh, but maybe this is going on and this and this. And okay, anyways, I ended up the conversation. It was like via chat, we were chatting. And I was like trying to go to sleep. But then, I tried to go to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep. Somehow I managed to fall asleep. I woke up, exact same state, feeling anxious, fast heartbeat, not fun at all, right? Another day passes, exact same state. It's like to the point where I'm like starting to neglect like the important day-to-day tasks in my life. And I'm like, yo, okay, this is not how it should be, right? This is like something got triggered in me and I should look at this, right? Because what most people would do, they probably would like watch a movie, if you're smoking, smoke a cigarette or a joint or whatever. Basically find the best way to distract themselves in order to forget what happened, right? Because it's like not pleasant and you don't want to be affected by it, right? Now, the thing is, what I learned from my journey is that, looking into the reasons why you're feeling this way in the first place is very important. Because then you're actually like, taking the time to see what's wrong, right? Like if your arm, is cut or your finger or whatever, you're going to look at it, right? You're not just going to be like, oh, it didn't happen. I'm not cut. Sadly enough, this is what most people do, right? They pretend as if it didn't happen. You actually want to look into the issue, right? And that's why I want to break it down for you, right? I want to, use my situation as an example and break down the following. What does it mean to be triggered? Why it's actually such a big gift when somebody triggers you, right? If you apply the right actions to it, right? It can be like a great gift. I promise you that. And also what to do step by step when you feel triggered, because I somehow managed to get out of that situation and actually learned so much about myself. And it's been like, I wish this for everybody. I wish, back in the day when I was triggered, to have like the right tools by my side or the right weapons, so to speak, in order to be able to deal with these things. Because, sadly enough, nowadays, we don't talk that much about these things, which should be more the case, in my opinion. Anyways, let's not waste any time and let's get straight into that. Okay, what does it mean to be triggered? Very simple. I'm going to break it down for you. Let's go back to when you were a baby. Let's say I have like you in my hands right now, right? Now, the thing is, when you're a baby, you don't understand the language, right? I can talk to you as much as I want. You won't understand me. Now, what you do understand is emotions. Like, for instance, if I like, if I'm like gimmicking, like, happy smiles towards you, or like, basically like if I'm gimmicking like happy feelings with my face towards like a baby, you, whatever, you will feel that, right? That's the thing. A child can feel things. That's the only thing the only intelligence a child has when it's born is feeling, right? It has no mind. And that's crucial because then the moment it grows up, right, it starts developing a mind. It starts developing an ability to put certain experiences into certain contexts. And that's crucial because the thing is, when this child is born, you, are born, you don't have this ability, right? You're basically like this sponge who absorbs every emotion, right? Like a sponge, just like a sponge absorbs like all the water, you're like this baby who absorbs all emotions around it, from the experience it has, around the parents, around the environment it's born. And that's you. And what happens is like when you, grow older, 7, because that's usually like the age when you start developing like your intellect and stuff, you're like stuck with experiences since you were like a child, but you have no clue why you have like these experiences. And what happens is like we don't pay attention to those things, right? And what happens is like we go through life unaware of like those experiences, right? Because that's just how we develop, like nothing to be done about it, no one to blame about it. That's just how things are. But basically, we grow up, and we're like wondering like why certain feelings we have, and we never actually take time, pause, and look at those things. We never actually take time to reflect on those things. And that's why, therapy, in my opinion, is like, a necessity nowadays for everybody. If you want to have like proper mental health, in my opinion, therapy is like the key and the answer to everything, right? People are like so unaware of those things, right? Still, patterns from their childhood that are been, indoctrinated in them, and they have like no clue why they're acting the way they are. That's like the worst thing ever, right? You're just no different than like a chicken without a head, right? Because like a chicken still survives for a certain amount of time without its head. Basically, you know what I mean. And so why am I saying all of this? What's happening when you are triggered? When somebody says something, does something, a certain emotion from your childhood, gets like triggered, literally. And, this pops up, right? And that happened to me, like what happened to me, what triggered, what the thing that actually was triggered in me was the following. And of course, don't expect to have like the answers straight away. But for me, it was the case because I also journaled a lot, and I was like, that's like a whole different process, like how you take like steps to like actually like reflect into yourself. But basically, it came down to me. I found out by, introspecting and reflecting on myself that I actually was afraid of losing the love and care I was having from this person. I was afraid of losing that, basically. I had it, and I was like so happy with it. And the moment, my girl told me like, yo, but maybe I can hang out with some friends, like by looking deep into myself and being honest with myself, I actually realized like, yo, I'm afraid I'm gonna lose this, right? Because the whole thing was like, yeah, we're going together, and now, oh, I'm gonna meet her. And like now that I look at it, it's like irrational, right? Because I know, my girl, I know where we stand and how we are, and I now realize like how stupid that is actually, right? Because that's just literally like my inner child, my child me part, that still lives in me, is basically just afraid. That's all what it comes down to. But let's say, let's say in my scenario, I acted up upon my emotions and I started talking shit to my girl, and I was like, not nice, isn't it? And this brings me to my second point, why actually a trigger is a gift. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, it was not fun. I was feeling like lots of intense, overwhelming emotions during those times, right? When I was like, but the thing is, you can go two ways about this. One way is you can be bitter, and every time you get triggered, you can be like, yo, I hate this. I don't want this. This is annoying. This is a pain in the whatever. But what if you like turn the table around and you tell yourself like, yo, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to actually, see what's inside of me, because that's the only way, like there's this, in my opinion, is like the only way how you can actually find more about your childhood and your past, because we don't have memories about those things. We don't have like some magic superpower or a guy who can like, do magic and tell us like, oh, look, here is like your past and this is what happens. But this is actually like a very powerful way of identifying, our little triggers, right? Our little experiences we went through that made us feel like in a certain way, That's why to me that's a superpower. You can turn it around, right? You can tell yourself like, yo, instead of being bitter and like angry about it and like, complain, I'm going to be like proactive about this, and I'm going to look inside of me. And next time, I'm triggered, I'm going to know how, I'm going to know how to deal with it and why I'm feeling, most importantly, like I will know what's going on. I will not be like a clueless chicken without a head. I actually will know what's going on. And that's so powerful in my opinion. Okay, you are triggered right now and you're probably wondering like, okay, what the am I supposed to do? Well, just do the following. Let's say you're triggered at the moment right now. Just take some time off. Go off, isolate yourself, take a walk. But whatever you may do, just don't act upon the emotion. Like realize you're not the emotion, you're not what you're feeling. You're just basically like the thing, this like, like you're like this thing who can see the emotion, basically. I know it sounds weird, go into meditation, look this up, being the observer, you will find what I mean. Like, just observe what you're feeling. Don't identify with what you're actually feeling. You're not the feeling. Again, you're the one who sees the feeling. And afterwards, start reflecting on it, Wait till the charge of the emotions go off, If really necessary, I wouldn't encourage that, but if really necessary, like, take some time off and distract yourself with something, but the problem with this is if you start distracting yourself, you will forget, you will lose the charge of the emotion. And hence why if you start introspecting or questioning yourself why you're feeling the way you are, you actually won't be able to get the access to the answer. Right? Because you're stuffing it more down. When it's to the surface, it's intense and not pleasant, for sure. But if you take time to actually introspect and ask yourself the questions and basically be honest with yourself, the answer will arise. And for this, I actually have one exercise you can do with yourself. This exercise is called the chains of why. Now, what do? You do the following. You start asking yourself one question: why am I feeling this way, right? In the moment you're in this state with the emotions and very overwhelming feelings. You ask yourself why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling the way I feel right now? The first answer that pops up in your head is actually key, because what you do then, step 2, is actually you ask yourself why you have that answer, right? For instance, in my case, the first thing that would have popped up in my head is yo, why would I feel like this? Because I'm not together. Okay, why does it matter that you're not together is the following question I would ask myself. Basically find whys and see how far you can go with the why. Why is that the way it is? Why is that the way it is? Why is that the way it is? And suddenly you will go deeper. Note, you have to be honest with yourself, and it does take courage to do that. But the more you do that, the deeper you will go, and the more you will be able to question yourself. And maybe, though there are way more practical videos on this and how to do it, but this is a way you can do that. Maybe then you can come up with an answer and see for yourself why you're feeling a certain way, right? Because the next time this happens, you have awareness, and then it probably, then when you have awareness, you won't feel the same, because the reason why you're going through this overwhelming state is because you don't have clue of it, right? And it makes you feel anxious, angry, maybe fearsome. Basically, you have no clue. And when you have clue, when you can put it into context, when you can actually make sense the reason why you're feeling the way you are, things get way easier. So I hope this brought value. I hope the next time you're triggered, you know how to deal with it, and you can place it in a better place, or even better, you can transmute it into a gift, because it is a gift in my opinion. I hope this brought value. I wish you all the best. Let me know your opinion in the comments down below, and I see you in the next one.